Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson. This is Jawiin.
And we're here to give you a review of Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 5, Eastwatch. And if you haven't watched this episode by now, what the hell have you been up to? But there will be spoilers. Okay, so as we said in last week's video, we were on vacation, so we couldn't watch this episode live on Sunday. We just now got to see the episode. We're going to talk about it now, and we're not going to recap it because by this point, I think you probably have already been recapped. We're just going to talk about what we think is good, what we think is bad, and then we're going to go straight into our ratings, straight into our predictions. So this is going to be a little bit different, but do not worry. This Sunday, we're going to do the regular review just like we always do.
Like you're used to.
Ashley, let's start off with the good of this episode. What was some stuff, some character moments, some scenes, some lines of dialogue, some non-direwolf moments that you really enjoyed in this episode?
All of my Game of Thrones boyfriends got together in this episode.
And the Game of Thrones did as well.
The Game of Thrones did as well. It was great. They
That's
had
the
an
Domino's spinoff.
amazing time.
If you remember the Noid. Go ahead.
What?
Just I was making a Domino's pizza joke. It's all good.
Oh, okay.
Who are your Game of Thrones boyfriends?
Jon Snow and Gendry and Jorah. Gendry, they all wind up together because we continue the trend of big speedsters. This episode takes place all over the world, and you made this comment when we were watching it. There's kind of no room for it to breathe, but there's so much exciting stuff that goes on. Like,
and I'll bring up more about that later on. But
yes, the scene, Dany and Jon scenes continue to be some of the best scenes that these characters have had in seven seasons. So the scene where he decides that he has to leave because he learns that Bran and Arya are alive, it's a really powerful moment. And for me, I'm finally getting to see Jon be the king I know that he's been destined to be since his inception.
Especially that line he said, where he said like, oh, it's not, I don't need your permission to leave. I thought that was a great line for him.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a king, which is true because he hasn't bent the knee to her.
No, he hasn't. I don't think she'll make him. He'll bend in other ways. Continue.
That's my joke from last one. I really thought that Jon was really tremendous in this, and then I really enjoyed the reunion between Jorah and Daenerys. It wasn't too put on, but I liked that she hugged him and she said, yes, he is my friend. That meeting, I think, could have been handled very poorly, and I thought it was executed very, very well. I really liked that scene. What is some stuff that you liked?
Well, I'm going to start off in the beginning of this episode because I liked where this episode started. I like that we immediately began this episode right out of the lake/river, wherever the hell it was. I'm going to say it's a river because I assume they're in the Riverlands.
They are in the Riverlands,
confirming that it was Bronn that saved Jaime, not Dickon, as many people in the comments were screaming at me that it was. Anyways, yeah, I have to get that in. So anyways, I really like that scene where they're sitting on the rivers and Jaime is still like dumbstruck. He's like, we're screwed. And I like the idea that Bronn was like, what were you thinking? It's a dragon, you idiot. And Jaime was like, I thought I could end that war. And Bronn's like, there was a dragon between her and the end of the war. And I thought it was funny, especially their character moments are so good because Bronn's like, look, I'm not going to let you die until I'm paid, either with my castle or something else. And then also Jaime's like, oh, crap, I have to tell Cersei.
He's so dumbstruck by Cersei. Like, if he would just betray her, all of his problems would go away.
But then Bronn gets the last little needle in there where he was like, I think it'll just be easier to just jump back in that river.
Yeah.
Than tell Cersei that there are dragons.
Absolutely, 100%.
I also liked another Lannister moment that was immediately after that. Tyrion's struggle with Daenerys just being like, I'm going to burn you. Either bend the knee or I'm going to burn you.
Tyrion doesn't want anyone to be a tyrant anymore because he suffered under tyranny for his entire life.
And seeing Peter Dinklage play that struggle, I thought really helped that scene come across. Because you can tell they're playing a lot of tones in that scene. They're playing a lot of tones of like, making the viewer, us, be like, oh, is Daenerys becoming the Mad King? Now, I don't think she is. I think it's simply her just being like, look, I'm giving you a choice. Stand with me or die. And that's a lot more fair than you're ever going to get under Cersei. Cersei's just going to force you to work for her no matter what. She's not even going to give you the choice. But it is still a little bit of like, man, that's a pretty cruel death. And I think that's why the thing is that Tyrion was very much the audience's point of view character in that scene. And I think that's why we were like, oh man, I'm kind of with Tyrion in this scene. That kind of sucks. But we also get a great moment because now Sam is the head of his house.
Sam is the head of his house.
What else did you like in this episode?
Man, there's so much happened in this episode.
Oh my God, this episode moved like a freight train.
I want to talk about the scene that you mentioned a little bit. You could tell too that was the low budget dragon.
In which scene?
In the scene where Dickon and Mr. Tarley, Lord Tarley, I don't know what his
Although
name is.
I want to point out that I thought there was some great cinematography, especially that they were doing that shot where the dragon was on the hill and you saw the whole army and the sun was setting. Yeah. I thought that was like very much, I don't know, like some of the paintings and some of the art that we've seen for these books. But continue.
To me, that very much struck, especially over the sunset, of like, we don't have as much money for the dragon in the scene because we have Jon has to touch it in a minute.
Close.
So it still looked pretty good. I liked Jon being able to touch the dragon, putting to bed anyone's, I guess, assumptions that he's not a Targaryen. Also confirming one of Jason's predictions.
Yep.
So
I think from last year where I said where I said like Jon was gonna pet the dragon, like it was gonna happen, or maybe been earlier this year. I don't remember where, but we've had that theory for a long time that we were like, oh, the dragons are gonna respond to Jon, and I think in this scene it really helps set up the whole thing we've been talking about, that seeing how the dragon reacts to Jon, I think kindles the Daenerys being like, oh, that Jon Snow.
Ugh. Let's not talk about that because
that's what she does.
That's not good. I was so happy that we got to see Gendry again because
yes.
I love Joe Dempsey. I've loved him since
he was on.
Yes, since he was on Skins, and I don't think you cast an actor that good for a part that was that small. So I always thought that he was going to come back. And his scene with Jon, where it didn't even occur to me until they were like, "I met your dad. I met your dad." They fought together. They won wars together.
They're best friends.
That they could have that same relationship and that their partnership could be a really strong turning point in what this war is going to turn out. And it made me so excited. I just like Joe Dempsey so much. It was so cool.
You know, it's funny. That was one of the nice surprises of seeing this episode late because I got spoiled on Jorah Mormont showing up to Daenerys. Everybody on Twitter.
On the dragon.
But Gendry being in this episode. Because when Davos showed up with Tyrion at King's Landing and Davos walked up the stairs, I immediately was like, oh, I think he's finding Gendry.
Yeah, he called it immediately.
And then as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh, man, like you're a character that we haven't seen for like 3 seasons.
No.
But like as soon as you come back to the show, it's another tie to season 1 that we're getting here. And you're like, oh, it's nice to have a Baratheon, and it's exactly what you said. Like when he said that line where he's just like, "I'm Robert Baratheon's bastard. You're Ned Stark's bastard. We should be best friends."
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, you're shorter than Ned Stark. Oh, and you're
skinnier than
Robert. You're skinnier than Robert." And it was like, "Oh yeah, these guys should be best friends." The only downside about this is not going to be my prediction, so that's why I'll say it a little bit early. Is I think Gendry dies by.
I think he probably.
I think that the dead creatures are going to kill Gendry.
I think it's either that or he's going to grow up to marry Arya because he has that pre-existing relationship with her, and because Maisie Williams very famously said that she had a crush on him.
Oh.
So I could see them doing that as kind of a fandom sort of nod back to her. Also, I just want to say that hammer was cool
giant
as
hammer, yep.
expletive, and I like introducing new weapons, and I thought that was really,
Let's talk about
really
the
cool.
other meeting this episode, Bronn tricking Jaime into meeting with Tyrion.
That really surprised me.
I would
not have seen it coming. They're so good together.
Yep.
Nikolai Coster-Waldau and Peter Dinklage are...
Yep.
They're great.
Yep.
It was awesome.
And then right after that scene, we find out that Cersei knew Tyrion was here somehow. Somehow.
She's got spies.
And then she reveals something that I think complicates this series more than anything else we saw in this series. She's pregnant again.
Only if you think it's true.
Do you think she's lying?
I think she's lying.
Oh, that's it. Oh,
I do think I think she's trying to entrap Jaime because she knows that he would go with Tyrion.
That's smart.
I got the.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. That's. Wow, you think she could be tricking it?
Yeah, I do.
That puts a whole new onion on this level, everybody. That's great. I like that a lot.
Great. It's a complication either way because Jaime's going to believe her.
Jaime will believe
100%.
her until he finds some evidence otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think Jaime's going to kill Cersei. I really do.
I do too.
Somehow.
Yeah.
So you think she's completely lying?
I do, because especially if she knows Tyrion's there, she has to do something to ensure Jaime stays on her side.
Yes. Now let's talk about... We had a lot of interesting scenes in the Citadel. First off, so Bran sees the army of the dead marching south. He sends out letters to apparently everybody. The Archmaesters get them. Jim Broadbent, amazing in that role as well. Sam overhears the conversation. He's like, yo, I know Bran Stark. I've seen this army, da-da-da-da. And then I liked that Sam, because I've kind of been like, oh, the Maesters are interesting, but like I don't really quite get what we're doing with this plot line, with the exception of that Sam is going to stumble upon the answer. But I like that Sam said a line in this scene that I think is going to take the tone of what the Citadel's role is going to be. And that is, he's like, if the Citadel, everybody in Westeros respects you, if you tell all the lords that there's an army of the dead coming, they would send all their men. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so Sam kind of gets frustrated by that and he runs out of the room. I think, even though we see Sam leave the Citadel in this episode, which I thought was a very interesting turn, like he just goes and steals the scrolls that he thinks, I kind of think Jim Broadbent is not done with this show, and that Jim Broadbent is either going to serve the role of believing Sam and telling all the lords, or we'll find out that Sam, like, is missing, like, one piece of parchment, and Jim Broadbent's Archmaester is going to send it to him.
It's the same kind of thing, like I was saying about Joe Dempsey. You don't cast an actor of that caliber in that part and not use them.
Now, let's talk about also the thing, do you want to reveal the thing that Gilly found?
Gilly basically confirmed that Lyanna and Rhaegar got married because she asked what an annulment was. Sam's answer that it's when a man sets aside his true wife, I really liked. I liked the dig that was inherent in there, especially considering what annulment was created for. I really dug that. So even though Gilly doesn't get to finish her sentence, it's another confirmation, like Jon with Drogon, of his parentage that
he's
we've been
a legit Targaryen. Yeah.
And
then also it kind of confirms
he's also
this thing.
Be a trueborn Stark.
Exactly. It also confirms this thing that Rhaegar didn't steal her.
No.
She went of her own. She left Robert on purpose.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting kind of turn I really like there. We're setting up all these little things that makes me we're going around the whole Jon parentage thing that I really
they're leaving it for the finale.
Yeah, I kind of think that Jon's not going to find out until the actual final episode of Game of Thrones next year.
My argument against the way it's happening right now is we could have done this over the course of 7 seasons.
Sure.
We could have had these revelations spread out. We're having this
instead
spread
of
out
waiting since last
over
season?
episodes. Yeah, like it would have been cool if this had started in season 3, which of course it's easy for me to say in hindsight looking back on the show, but to me they're coming very, very quickly, and it would have been a better mystery if they'd been spread out a little bit more.
And then I like the last little scene that we get because Jon goes all the way from Dragonstone to north of the Wall, east of the Wall as well, to Eastwatch, meets up with Tormund. I like that Tormund was like, how many queens are there? Did you bring the big woman?
Yes,
I love
that's
that.
the best.
And then we meet the Hound and all his brothers that are followers of the Lords of Light. And sort of, I actually said this when we were watching the episode. I was like, oh, this is sort of reminding me of like an Avengers/Justice League crossover because we have all these characters, Jorah Mormont, Jon, Gendry, the Hound, that haven't been together for seasons, and now they're all together fighting the dead things, and they march into the north.
It's the same thing as Sansa and Arya, who get to have one episode where they like each other, and now we've already got the seeds of doubt planted in both of their minds, which could make them enemies, which might be what Peter Baelish wants.
Which is exactly what Littlefinger wants as well. So I really enjoyed that. Those are all my goods. Do you have any other goods to add?
I think that pretty much sums up our goods.
All right, let's move into the bad. I don't have many bads. I just want to put out my bad real quick here. The one negative of this episode, because I think there's so much in this episode, and I kind of think that every scene gives us a little something, which is interesting. We get a lot of revelations in this episode, is the pace. We are booking so fast. Now here's and I want to throw it out to you as well. We know that this season is only 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Next season is only 6. Now there have been some rumors that next season might have hour-and-a-half episodes, like they might be longer episodes. This is my argument too. This episode was the first time that I've noticed it a little bit, but this was really the episode where we have people going from King's Landing back to Dragonstone to north of the Wall, back to north of the Wall, back up here, back, and you're just like, Jesus, they are crossing like 6-month distances in between scenes. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think, and I'd love to hear your opinion about this season should have been 10 episodes, and next season should have been 10 episodes, just like every other season of Game of Thrones, so we could have some of these scenes breathe a little bit?
I do think that.
Yeah.
I do think that. I also think for the first time they might have 10 episodes worth of content. Previously, I felt like they maybe have 7 or 8 episodes of content, and we run into a similar problem that we've criticized Marvel Netflix shows for in the past, having 2 or 3 episodes too long. I think they're really, it's like the comment that I made about figuring out that Jon's a Targaryen. this is stuff that we could have spread out over 2 or 3 seasons, and then season 3, 4, and 5 wouldn't have been as bad. They were a huge quality dip compared to the other seasons. It's still one of the best shows on television, I get it, but from that, objectively, they're not as good as some of the stuff that's bookended it. And I think that seeing some of the stuff that we're seeing, it's coming at us, it's so much all the time now that, yes, having one little quiet scene in between there would be nice, but you know,
let me point out this too.
We're spoiled for great content right now.
Sorry to interrupt you. Let me put this, because a lot of seasons of Game of Thrones, we usually always build to the quote-unquote battle episode.
And episode 9. It's always an episode 9.
It's always episode 9. I think it's been episode 8 a couple other times. I'm not certain. I think Battle of the Bastards was actually 8. No, I don't know. Anyways, so we usually have an episode that focuses only on one story, and it's a battle all the way through. I'm worried, because technically that should be the next episode. I'm worried that instead of treating this next episode, which it should be just them in the winter fighting the monsters for an hour, I'm worried that we're going to cut away from that so much that the battle's only actually going to be like 15 minutes.
I think there's a good chance that that's what's going to happen, because that's what's happened in almost every episode so far.
And I really think that you could have made that battle the entire, especially from what we already seen the trailer for next week's episode, I think you could make that a full hour.
Yeah, unless there's an hour-and-a-half finale and they've managed to keep that quiet.
They might be. Any other bads you have?
No, it's just the pacing, and that's just a product of the way the show's being laid out. Yep. I would rather have these episodes than some of the other episodes where nothing happened.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
So it's like a 1% problem.
Great. Let's go straight into the rating. Ashley, based on a scale of 1 to 5 direwolf heads, what would you give this episode, Eastwatch?
5. It was great. There was amazing stuff, a bunch of characters that I like, and I like looking at all got together. Having too much content is an interesting problem to have, but it's a good problem to have. And like I said, I will take it. So how about you? What would you give Eastwatch?
Well, I think any episode that gives us this moment that we've been talking about for so long, we always talked about what is going to happen when Jon Snow meets one of the dragons. We have been waiting for this moment for 7 years. And to me, it did not disappoint. 5 out of 5. Woo! Every scene in this episode was so strong. Although, I will say that I think the next episode is going to be even bigger.
6 out of 5 direwolf heads.
We may break the scale for next week's episode. All right, let's go into our predictions. Ashley. That's your Westerosi name.
Okay.
Ashley, what do you see for the future of the next 2 episodes and possibly next season of Game of Thrones?
I mean, at this point, Jon and Daenerys are going to get married and have a baby by the end of the season. Because it's been approximately 6 years that they've been fighting to get back to Westeros.
Yep.
What I really think is going to happen is I think that Sam is going to make it all the way to the wall, and then he is going to learn that his family died.
Oh, you don't think he's going to go to Westeros? Or Winterfell, excuse me. He's in Westeros.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to go to the wall.
Okay.
And then I think that's what's going to send him back to Westeros, and I think he's going to...
You mean Winterfell?
Yep.
So many W's.
And I think that he's going to wind up working almost exclusively with Bran toward the end of the season.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, that's what I think is happening. How about you? What do you think is coming down in Westeros or Winterfell or something Game of Thrones?
I have a couple of predictions. I have actually 3.
Okay.
One prediction is, and I don't know if it's going to exclusively happen next episode, because I do think they'll go above the wall more than just the next episode. I think Jorah Mormont dies fighting the White Walkers.
No, Jorah.
It might happen in this very next episode, because he just came back to the Queen, that we might kill him. Because they also did some tension, if you notice, a couple scenes where he noticed that old Johnny boy, So watch, I have a crazy prediction. Watch Jorah Mormont die next episode to save Jon's life. And him be like, love her.
Because he knows.
Love her,
he knows
protect her, take care of her. I know the way you look at her.
Yeah.
Whatever. I also think that those dudes are going to be so screwed next episode that somehow with the Westerosi telepathy, I think we get Daenerys and a dragon fighting the White Walkers next episode.
Wow.
I think Daenerys rescues them with a dragon. But here's the problem. I think the Night King is going to meet a dragon next episode. I think a dragon dies next episode.
You've predicted that in the past.
I've said that before.
He's going to take down a dragon.
If he does not kill that dragon next episode, he really hurts it to the point where that dragon is done for the rest of the series. Like, it just like kind of rests up or whatever. I don't know if they'll fully kill a dragon this soon, but like I said, I have no doubt that Daenerys is going to rescue that team next episode because of the love storyline.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the first meeting of a Night King and a dragon. It's next episode. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen, because if this episode proved to me anything, we don't have time for anything. We're moving along, baby. So let us know down in the comments below what you think about our theories, and don't forget to click subscribe.
And why not click on one of the videos that's popped up on your screen, or go to patreon.com/Jawiin for more exclusive geeky content.
We'll see you this Sunday for a review of episode 6. Bye, White Walkers.